Okay, 11:01. Let's get started, guys. So good morning and thank you for joining Elite CISOs weekly event that we do every Thursday, 11 o'clock India time. We have been conducting these events from past almost 3 years now, as I mentioned earlier. And every week we try to bring different strategy, different, offering different perspective on cybersecurity. So today we have Cyfirma, Mr. Saurabh Lal from Cyfirma. He's joining us and he will talk about as the title say, understanding risk discovery and protection. So Cyfirma is basically into external threat landscape management. I'm sure if you don't know what is there on internet about your company, about your enterprise, you can't defend it. So Saurabh will talk about how Cyfirma can help you understand your security posture from external and internal perspective, and how you can better identify and secure your organization. So that's what the theme is going to be for today's session. And as you see on the agenda side, it's a quick welcome of initial 5 minutes, and then we will have Saurabh presenting about Cyfirma for about 40-45 minutes. And at the end, we will keep about 10 minutes for Q&A. So there is no Q&A during the session, right? There is no panelist who can answer your question while Saurabh is presenting. So I would encourage you guys to wait till the end. At the end, we will spend about 10 minutes for questions. So raise your hand, I will unmute you and then you can ask your question. I will share the secret to download your CPA certificate. We will have Wheel of Fortune, and the giveaway for Wheel of Fortune is a sound bar. We will also have Kahoot Quiz, right? So take good notes, guys. Okay, we have Kahoot Quiz, just 5 questions, and giveaways are going to be Amazon voucher of 5,000, 3,000, and 2,000 rupees subsequently. And apart from that, we would also have our legacy stand and attend challenge that we give in every single session. What is stand and attend? So if you're going to sit for the entire day, as we are in IT, we sit a lot, um, if you're going to say you might have all these problems, God forbid, I do not want you to guys have this problem. So what we do is at least for this 1 hour, while you are attending Elite CISO's webinar or sessions, stand, right? Like I'm standing over here to get these benefits. If you stand at least, a couple of hours in a day while you're working, you will have less pain in your body. You will feel better about yourself. You will lose more calories. More than that, you will think sharper. Okay. If you think sharper, you will pay good attention and focus to the session, and you might win in the Kahoot session as well at the end. So go ahead, guys, accept this challenge. Stand while Saurabh is going to present. And if you're accepting this challenge, go to the chat window and say, yes, see, people are already saying accepted because they know it's a weekly drill. It's going to happen, right? So great, guys. Thanks a lot. I'm sure no foggy brain out there, Ashok ji. Accept the challenge, say yes. And with this, let me transfer it over to Saurabh for a very interesting session. Saurabh, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you thank you for the kind introduction. Good morning, everybody. It's a bright, sunny Thursday, I'm sure at your end, and over the next 40-45 minutes, I will introduce you to what we are going to be speaking about. And let me quickly share my screen. I'm hopeful you're able to see the screen. It should be coming in soon.
It's loading at my end. Now it's loaded. Cool. Looks great.
All right. It's all about cyber risk. It's all about the risk discovery and protection, but it's also about understanding what's really happening outside in your external threat landscape. That's very important because most of the risks and threats, they're really coming from outside your perimeter. So let's start the session, and I look forward to enriching your understanding. While many of you are already industry experts and you will probably know most of these, let me bring your attention to this topic. So what is really cyber risk, right? We all know it is risk associated with cyber threats, which are actually coming out mostly from your external cyber environment. These are risks which are associated to your digital presence. It's associated to your digital products, services, as well as processing, which do include third-party processing, BPOs, or anything that you are utilizing. Now, post the pandemic, this has really become a big phenomenon wherein everybody who needed to reach to their supply chain or to their customers or to their ecosystems, they needed to be connected to the digital world, as we call digitization. And that's where things have really become interesting over the last few years during the pandemic. And also it was there before, right? So all this has led to escalating cybercrime. Now let's understand a few things about it, right? Cybercrime, we all hear, read about it. You are industry experts. Many of you have also probably faced that and you are defending against them, right? Let us rekindle our memory. An average cost of a data breach can easily cost to the tune of 4.24 million US dollars and above. It really depends on the kind of data that is being breached out there. Cybercrime is a very well connected and a very well fueled economy. If you do not believe that, almost 63% of cyber attacks are financially motivated. And if you really look at mega breaches, right, the average cost is in excess of 400 million, but that is a number which is just an average. I have seen in my experience this cost leapfrogging by miles. And really, if you look at the way cybercrime is increasing, what do we do? What do we as industry SMEs and defenders really spend on? We just spend a very small portion of it, right? Almost under 3,000 US dollar per employee, if you're to really take into account the globalization perspective. We keep saying this in cybersecurity domain, and all of you must be aware of this, that there are only two stages of in cybersecurity. One, you are hacked and you know, and two, you are hacked and you do not know. And a testament or the second stage, which is where most of the organizations are part of, is the fact that it almost takes 3/4 of a year before you can actually identify that, oh, damn, we are actually at the wrong end of a breach and our data has been breached, or identity access details of my administrators or my teams or my customers has been breached. It really is something that takes time, and that is and you see some of the other stats, right? Phishing always is growing multifold, and I will talk also about deepfake in the later stages. You have consolidated attacks from big cybercrime communities, what we call them as state-sponsored attackers, and these are really targeting organizations, institutions, governments, and the utilization of malware is also multifold. Now let's look at cyber warfare and its impact. I think let's clear that notion that, oh, I will not be impacted. No one is spared. There are hot targets. You have CII and OT, threat to critical infrastructure, operational disruption, corporate espionage, reputational motives, and each and everybody who interacts with any of these entities is an implicit target itself. So if you think that, hey, I'm safe, I don't deal with CII, although that is very unlikely, but I don't deal with OT, there are entities we are dealing with, and we then become implicit targets. We already talked about financials, right? Cybercrime needs funding. Criminals are targeting financial systems because that's the easy way of them tapping into a funnel, which is always flowing. There will never be a situation that financial systems or financial transactions won't happen. Supply chain. We are in a connected world. There is digitization. Software supply chain is a very good example of how supply chain can be disrupted. All of us are in a situation wherein we have outsourced vendors, we utilize software supply chain components, and them getting impacted means we getting impacted. And and all of us understand that very clearly, especially after the SolarWinds fiasco, right? Now, there is also a thought out there that, SMEs, oh, I'm a small entity, why would cyber criminals be interested in me? There's that phenomena called carpet bombing, and businesses of all sizes, whether you are an MNC, whether you are an SME, whether you are a mom and pop shop, whether you are any other entity out there, as long as you are connected to the digital world and you have series of services, it's you're always going to be most likely possibly at the receiving end. And haven't we heard about ransomware too much? That is a threat, ladies and gentlemen, which is they're going to be which is going to stay there for a long, long time. And they are utilizing new trends of naming and shaming techniques, which can actually erode our brand value, which can erode the single most idea around which our organization is created, if that's the case for startups, organizations, MNCs. And finally, cyber criminals collaborate a lot more than you and I collaborate, ladies and gentlemen. They collaborate in terms of, enemy of an enemy is a friend. They collaborate in terms of tools, infrastructure, arms and ammunitions, which can be shared across so that the series of attacks can be more targeted. So let's look at what is really the evolving nature of threat landscape. You'd be surprised, I hope not, that cyber criminals are now focusing on kinetic cyber attacks, which means the division and the boundaries blurring the virtual situation and the physical situation, those boundaries are actually eroding. So there is an increased amount of attacks that we are seeing as Cyfirma, and I'm sure many of the other industry stalwarts who are here on the call would have seen, wherein cyber criminals are now starting to create a physical impact, which is going to be the defining way of how cyber attacks will be positioned in the going months and years to come. As we just discussed, right, to get even at the geopolitical stage, growing number of state entities are entering into the fray of cyber warfare and are entering into launching attacks. You want to get better at the geopolitical stage. Your country feels threatened by my way or my country's way of working, and you want to get even. Gone are the days, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the bullets and the missiles are also fired, but I can tell you, long before that, it's the cyber warfare pieces, it's these state-sponsored attacks which see the light of the day, and they are initiated. You would have seen the Russia-Ukraine scenario, and you must be following the news. But there is a lot that is happening on the wire. And there is a lot that happened on the wire before the first missile or the first soldier actually moved out there. And there is tons of information, insights out there that we as Cyfirma is uncovering as part of our external threat landscape insights to our clients and customers from these geopolitical scenarios coming in. Ransomware menace is going to escalate. You will not necessarily only have data being stolen, data being encrypted, data ransom being asked, and also your data being leaked in a name and shame format. We have also seen very clear trends wherein, as an example, and this is just an example, in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine scenario, we have seen ransomware operators who are siding with one particular side, asking organizations to go on public forums and make positive statements or comments around their action in this particular geopolitical crisis as one of the outcomes of the ransomware attacks. That only goes to prove that ransomware gangs are also, of course, doing it for financial reasons, but they're also connecting and colluding with various state-sponsored actors to go and further their geopolitical agenda of their state masters, as well as deepfake technology. Well, you know what, yes, Sanil, Goodwill ransomware is another example. So deepfake technology is there to spread misinformation. Just recently, Google, I think, took some steps to curtail it down. But we have reasons to believe that deepfake will actually replace phishing in the long run, because the impact of deepfake is really, we have just seen the tip of the iceberg, really. So that technology is out there, is already working to spread misinformation. You can see a lot of it happening in the current geopolitical scenario brewing up between Russia and Ukraine, and many more use cases we are, well, at least able to see towards our clients and customers, which might be coming and impacting them. All right. Let's look at some of the trends that we have observed for India specifically. And this is targeted towards our understanding of external threat landscape. Please understand that it is important for you to understand that threats and risks, most of them originate from outside your perimeter. There is a group out there, or there is a cyber criminal out there who's looking at it 24/7, trying to see how lucrative a target you are, and trying to see how they can, execute their sinister motive. And that is why, if you put in your cyber posture management and you are not aware and in tune with some of those threats you are facing, or some of those trends that are happening in the external threat landscape management, then you are still in a reactive mode. And the intention or the intended use of external threat landscape, which I'll cover later on as well, is to move stalwarts like yourselves, organizations that you are defending against, from an event-driven approach to an intelligence-driven approach. So what do we see for some of those trends that are appearing in India? Well, they have been very active, cyber criminals, especially in the manufacturing, automobile, BFSI, and retail organizations. This is a huge chunk of the Indian economy. I'm not saying, or we are not saying that other areas are not being impacted, but these are the industries of interest. They are seen to utilize specialized malwares, impersonation of identities, and the target has always been identity theft. And we all know this, right? It all starts by clicking a link, or it all starts by replying an email which looks like as if it came from your boss, or from the procurement department, or from your partner, or from one of your ecosystems, right? So it is very important. We all need to understand this is a trend, an important trend which is brewing out there. One of the key motivations we have seen is exfiltration of intellectual property from automobile, BFSI, chemical, and F&B industry. Intellectual property is not just the secret formula or the recipe. It also goes by how you are running your operation. It also goes by, if you are a financial institution, how are you executing your M&A? It also goes by, if you are an automobile, what are the research that you are doing, which is new out there in the chemical format. It also goes by, I mean, India is a buzzing market and a buzzing country, right? So many entrepreneurs out there. We hear so nice stories about India and, startup ecosystem, people doing great, people doing new things, which is opening the eyes of the world. And stalwarts like yourselves are out there on the ground defending those ideas, defending those organizations. Hence, a very lucrative target from cyber criminals and threat actors, and many of them are not very far away, they're just across the border. Managed service providers will continue to be the high-profile targets of criminals. I'm not going to name those organizations, but in the last 2 years, we've seen quite many of these service providers being impacted through ransomware, through data exfiltration malwares, because it's all about trying to gain access to their systems, and through them gain access to the systems of the consumers, because that's the path of least resistance to execute a method of attack and a path of attack. Financial services, including insurance and trading companies, are always going to be a lucrative target. They are always going to be out there. You have impersonation pieces that people are targeting. You have the data, the PII, FII, PIFI data, and this is all through malware and ransomware. We all know this, right? You just spend a couple of tens of dollars and you get a publicly exploitable code of a ransomware, which you can execute very easily. It doesn't need somebody to do Perl scripting or scripting in Python to create one from scratch. And the target always is impersonation of identities and theft of identity data, because in the digital world, it is the identity which is the key to entering into your perimeter and then running away with your crown jewels. Something that was not seen earlier in the bigger scheme of things, but something which we are starting to see, is that scammers are actively spreading false information to collect PII and behavioral data. Please understand that attacks and cyber criminals are getting smarter. People are trying to utilize behavioral data, and they are trying to typecast and make the attacks very specific. Make it very specific to the geography you are operating in, to the technology you are adopting, to the industry you are operating in. If you are a financial organization and you are in an M&A kind of a situation, to utilize that information to create something out there. If there is a pandemic out there, or if there is any other health crisis, to understand the behavior of the society, how they are reacting to it. Your e-commerce data, which tells you what is the kind of liking of the society, and how do they want to use that data to further execute something that is to their advantage, right? So the trends are fake sites, downloadable spyware, so that you can again steal identity, you can again steal sensitive data. And finally, we are talking about this again, it's the supply chain. It's the software supply chain for your BFSI, for your manufacturing, tourism, which is really big in India, as well as the utility companies. And we are all connected to each one of these organizations or institutions in some shape and form. Your trades, your secrets, your documents, and we have worked with quite a few institutions in India, and we have seen this firsthand. Let's look at the geopolitical scenario, and we are going a little bit bold here in trying to call out certain trends out there. Certain trends in two threat actor groups from two geographies, which have been seen to be collaborating. One of them might not be a surprise, the other one might be a surprise. We are trying to see, we are seeing them collaborating with each other in trying to execute campaigns. These are nothing but operations being run by these cyber criminal cartels in trying to, impact and create a negative brand reputation, a negative reputation of India as a company, as a country where all these companies are headquartered and are working. It's all about corporate espionage activities, you name it, right? And we've seen a very clear trend of these cyber criminals from these two countries really collaborating. Now, as we do in the IT landscape, there is also something called outsourcing in the hacking world. You have hacker as a service. You have ransomware as a service. So all you need to do is, as part of your big execution of that particular campaign or attack, there is a small portion which is dependent on a particular component, and you just go to one of these countries out there whose GDP and whose economy is almost non-existent, and they use these kind of activities, to go ahead and execute some of those attacks out there. And we are seeing an increased number of quantum of such attacks, and that those attacks are only going to go forward. So there is a kind of a tri-national construct out here, which means, and it's not only related to these nations, there are other cyber criminals from some of the other geographies which are active as well. But in the cybersecurity space, in the cybercrime phase, in trying to get even with the geopolitical agenda, there are no friends out there, my friends. We are always open to all these kind of scenarios, and we have to defend ourselves, expecting the worst from even best of our so-called friendly nations, because their agenda on the cybercrime world or ransomware groups and state-sponsored groups might be something that is really true to their liking, and that is being driven by their state-sponsored masters. Here is a data point for you, my friends out there. We have seen these campaigns and operations. So this is from Lazarus Group, and we have seen campaigns and operations targeting Indian organizations from an hacker as a service model, wherein they are involved in stealing money, IP, trade secrets, to basically earn some more much needed cash for the economy, so that they can go and continue with their sinister motives in the geopolitical stage, whether it's developing their arsenals or working with their so-called friendly countries and helping them execute their sinister motives. This is just a very small snapshot and subset of what we are tracking. We track almost 700 plus cyber criminals and almost 1,800 such operations and campaigns. And what we are showing is just a tip of an iceberg to give all of you a very clear feeling of and an understanding of what's really happening out there. You look at campaigns being executed by one of our neighbors out there, and you look at how they are collaborating, the groups originating from that geography, utilizing some of those known malware tool sets, carrying out reconnaissance, because all your cyber criminal activities really start from the reconnaissance phase, which is where we specialize in, because we tell to our clients and customers what's coming their way rather than something what is happening. That's the beauty of external threat landscape. It's able to pick those insights. It's able to pick those trends, and it's able to advise you before something materializes into a actual sinister motive being executed or a cyber attack already being executed out there. And many of these are really customized out there for you. These are some of the campaigns that we are tracking. There are those target industries, and the geographies do include prominently India, as it does in quite a few other geographies. And then finally, from one of the countries, so-called not so distant away, but they are also more about utilizing various ransomware groups which originate from that land, such as Conti and Klopp. I think most of us have heard them, and they should be almost a breakfast menu for reading latest insights around them. It's all about exfiltrating sensitive data and demanding ransom, and then, collaborating with cyber criminal groups from other countries and other regions to really go around with. This is a very interesting piece, and I think all of us must have seen Bond, as in the Skyfall movie. And it's not all about firing a bullet. Yes, occasionally that bullet must be fired or the missile must be fired, but it's about telling, and this is the character cube, which is the so-called Cyber Fusion Center head, which was a role which was played by Cyfirma's founder, chairman, and CEO Kumar Ritesh in his yesterlife, wherein he's very clearly telling to the Bond, to James Bond, that I can do more damage on my laptop sitting in my pajamas before my first cup of tea than you can do in a year of on the field, right? So we very famously say this, and we have been seeing this trend, as we have also identified in our predictions, that the next set of warfare will be all done on wire. You might need to fire the occasional bullet or missile. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but a lot would have been already done. A lot of damage would be already done by executing it on the fire. And I think we need to make sure that our boards, our stakeholders come to terms with this reality. They should not be looking at restricting the cybersecurity budgets, and they should be looking into giving you the empowerment of adopting next stage technologies like what we are talking about, which is the external threat landscape. So what's it about external threat landscape, right? It is about providing you the visibility and doing away with the blind spots. It's about telling you how are you visible based on those porous assets which are discoverable or which are visible to the cyber criminals, so that you can know that the cyber criminal does not need to create ingenuely something new out there. It's your assets which are visible out there, which are not patched, as an example, correctly, or which do not have the right cybersecurity controls because you do not have the right visibility parameters inserted, which present an alley for the cyber criminals to actually use and come into your environment. It's about the intelligence around your vulnerabilities. Enriching your assessment and your vulnerability management programs by understanding who are those hacker groups that are executing cyber attacks, or that are running campaigns by exploiting maybe a low-level vulnerability, which might be a CVSS Core 3, but because it is being heavily exploited, are you getting those insights based on the intelligence that you are better off executing and remediating this vulnerability now rather than waiting for 3 months? Is your brand under risk? Are you a victim of corporate espionage? Are you a victim of data leak, data breach? Do you know that your digital profile is under risk? Do you know that there are impersonations around your key executives? Do you know that there are infringements around your products and services? You need to have this visibility, ladies and gentlemen, and you need a technology which is running 24/7, presenting these real-time indicators and insights so that the data within your reactive systems are enriched with all these inputs out there. It is not a solution of getting an army of people and clicking and working on your keyboard and doing various searches out there, because you're always going to keep missing that. You need a technology-driven and an intelligence-driven approach out there. Do you know what are those trends which are coming in your industries? Are you empowered to identify which are those initiatives you should be prioritizing? Because there is a trend of a new category of malware attacks which are coming to your geography or to your industry. Are you able to see that? And when I say you, that you is very important, because you need to be at the center stage of that ecosystem. It's not about giving you some noise, some indicator out there. Here are 2 million IOCs. Please go and figure out which is relevant for them. Here is what is happening as an example in 7-Eleven in the United States. Please go and figure out and block those things. It's all about you. It needs to be personalized to you, contextual to you, relevant to you. It needs to be prioritized so that you should know which one to prioritize when it comes to remediation. What is that remediation plan out there? If you do not know that piece out there, then it becomes very difficult for you to create your remediations accordingly. And that is why we say cyber intelligence has to be predictive, personalized, contextual, actionable, and it needs to give you a very clear understanding of how are you looking as a target, as a lucrative target by some of these cyber criminals, and what is the context around it, right? All right. Why are we doing this? Well, we have always been reactive in the history, looking at the data and trying to make the data work. Moving that from proactive, trying to shift the mindset to understand, you have been breached mindset is usually the common agreement, but your security controls need to allow to secure your organizations. It is very important for you to understand, to be aware of some of those indicators and to take some of those proactive actions. To understanding where is the future, what is the future, which starts today, because what starts today in looking at what is happening in future is going to make a difference to your cyber posture, because things do not work overnight, right? You need to understand what are those challenges. You need to understand what are those interoperability between cyber criminals which is happening, which are executing out there. What are those kind of exposures? And more importantly, at this stage, you also need to understand that it is not a game of buying 20 different tools and working across those 20 different tools, because the data set of all those tools is not talking to each other, and you need to start executing manual use cases around it. It's not about that. It's about understanding the context of every data point. It's about understanding the comprehensive threat story around each of those data points and insights out there. You need to understand who's interested in you. Why are they interested in you? What are they looking for? When are they going to possibly launch an attack? And how are they going to launch an attack? If you are not able to get a clarity around it, if you are not able to get a clarity around some of those threats and risks right at the planning stage, we are going to spend a lot of money as cyber defenders in trying to defend ourselves in a reactive way, which is why moving into a predictive stage is absolutely important. And external threat landscape model needs to is only effective when 6 of those critical pillars work well. Identifying your attack surfaces, which is identifying the doors and windows. Identifying the keys to those doors and windows, which is the intelligence around vulnerabilities. Identifying the intelligence around brand. Identifying the digital scenarios, those data leaks, so that you know if your brand and is your digital profile is under risk, as we talked about. Identifying some of those trends around your threat landscape, around your situations, or around those threats and risks which are coming your way when it comes to the industry you're operating, when it comes to the geography you're operating, and doing contextualization around the intelligence or threats or risks which are out there, right? As an example, and I will just briefly give this example, zero-day vulnerabilities and zero-day attacks, they are all there. We are always waiting for a product vendor to release a patch, and going to take another 5 to 10 days before that is implemented in all the environments, right? But do you know what are those campaigns which are being executed by those threat actors or cyber criminals out there Do you know the IOCs around so that you can go and enforce your cybersecurity controls? Because your cybersecurity controls can only be effective if you input and feed the right amount of intelligence in it. If it is always going to be reactive, well, the cyber criminal would have long established persistence in your environment before you would realize, and they'll probably just be sitting there waiting for the right time to execute the attacks. So it's very important for you to have a unified platform with all these inputs out there, which makes a difference to your external threat landscape viewpoints, and which makes a difference to your cybersecurity postures. So let's go a little bit into attacks, into the details of attack surface discovery. It's your awareness. Are you aware? How are you visible from outside in? Inside out, of course you are. You have all those perimeter defense tools and systems out there. But from an outside in, do you know in a real-time basis how porous your systems are? Do you know about shadow ITs? Do you know about forgotten IT? Do you know about those configuration weaknesses, leaky cloud buckets? Do you know about some of those certificate vulnerabilities, open ports, cloud weaknesses? These are all entry points, ladies and gentlemen, that a cyber criminal will use to launch an attack, because these are parts of least resistance. They do not need to do much to identify this information. You need to be able to be made aware of this on a real-time basis by a technology. Do you know the intelligence around vulnerabilities of your external assets? Around what are those exploits out there? Around what are those weaknesses in your vulnerable certificates? Because these are the keys. You can have the most best framework out there being implemented, but if you have even the least of the vulnerabilities out there, that is all the cyber criminal will need to get into it. So do you know how to reduce your porous attack surface? Do you know how to reduce your vulnerability landscape? That is what external threat landscape and vulnerability intelligence provides to you. Is your brand under risk? Do you have that comprehensive view? And it's all about creating that comprehensive threat story, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about picking one tool talking about brand, another tool talking about reactive vulnerability management report, another tool talking about something else. Because who's going to make all these tools talk? Who's going to give you that perspective that what's your overall risk posture or cybersecurity posture looking like? Who's going to tell you what is the trend of your changing nature of your cybersecurity posture? Who's going to tell you how should you be prioritizing these initiatives? Well, if you have a tool like that, which gives you a visibility of all the data connected out there and it's intelligence driven, then you do not need anything else, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know what are those risks around your digital profile, your domains, your IT assets, your impersonations of your executives and people, your infringements, your lookalike social handler? All it needs is one tweet or a couple of tweets from a lookalike handler, and I can promise you, in my experience, and I would not like to name an organization, the share value of that brand took a hit of more than 40%. All it needed was 2 tweets from a lookalike handler. It is that is how sinister is the motive of these cyber criminals. Do you know, is there a file leaked out there? Is there a source code leaked out there? Is your PII, CII data available out there? Do you have malicious mobile applications or negative social sentiments out there? Because it's all about the brand value. It's all about protecting the brand value, the shareholder value, and ensuring there is negative financial impact. That's our job. That's what we are here to defend our organization against. But you need a technology-driven inputs, real-time inputs, intelligence-driven inputs around it. And finally, the data breach and monitoring. It's all about email identities, credential leaks. It's quite interesting, right? Even in today's scenario, we see people utilizing their work emails, same passwords, logging into LinkedIn, Facebook. If you are going to attend a conference, you will happily enter in your details out there, the right details. You will happily create a profile with your work email ID. And many people almost utilize the same password, or you will be shocked at the level of passwords we are able to uncover from these data leak campaigns that we provide a visibility to our clients and customers about database exposures, financial leads, carding. And not to mention dark web. There are 2 portions of dark web. One is the public portion, and one is the the private portion, and we have a good coverage on all of them. And finally, third-party risk. How many of us have had sleepless nights around it? It's about time that we start to gain control, insights about our third party's digital risk, because there have been so many cases wherein third party has been compromised, and through third party, their clients and supported clients have been compromised. So it's all about gaining visibility and getting rid of your blind spots. It's all about gaining visibility of external threat landscape. Please understand, without that, your security controls are not effective, and we are just sitting as a target for cyber criminals and being given a mantra or a modus operandi to defense against those, and it's almost like shooting in the dark. You need a non-intrusive platform. You need a risk-based view so that you can take the right decisions. You can present it in the board. You need a guided, systematic approach around, you need a guided, systematic approach around remediations. You need an operational view around the data. It's all about that. It's all about discovering, risks and trying to protect against those. Can you see what is your overall risk rating looking like? Can you see the matrices? Can you see what are those relevant CVs that you need to defend against? Do you have weaknesses in certificates? We have all covered this, so I'll not run this too much in detail. But it is about utilizing and optimizing your resources and getting a head start. See from an hacker's view. You are seeing yourself from an inside-out view. You know what is there inside the perimeter. Can you see yourself as to how hackers are seeing you as a target? Are you able to see and support the leadership in taking those necessary decisions? Are you able to protect against attack surface from hackers' recon exercises, vulnerability intelligence, digital risk? These are all important factors before you jump into a new market, before you jump into a new business segment, because they'll always come back to you in trying to get some of those decisions and trying to tell you, hey, from a security piece, right? It is out there. It is out there to be utilized so that they can use that in their decision making to understand whether whether there are security considerations, or whether you need to initiate a new initiative, or whether you need to completely can. As an example, and no offense meant, if somebody now tells us, if somebody is now telling us that, you should be creating a new business model and entering into Russia and Ukraine, I think with the geopolitical scenarios out there, it is a foregone conclusion that that shouldn't be the case. That's where our role comes in. Know the enemy. Advise the security teams based on campaigns being tracked. Search and analyze hacker profiles. Analyze those targeted campaigns. Because it's not only about somebody making a comment out there. It's about understanding what are those correlations around those campaigns. What are those TTPs? What are those modus operandi around some of those cyber criminal groups? You need to understand all that. Only then can you strengthen your cyber posture and make a defense around them. Because, ladies and gentlemen, they are out there 24/7 trying to see how they can break into your environment and run away with your crown jewels. Unless you see that correlated and integrated data, you cannot identify and make sense of that data. You need to have IOC feeds. You need to have a capability of hunting around them. And you need to have visibility of malwares which are targeting your geography, industry, technology, and everything. Please understand, it is all about driving an ROI based on intelligence, based on insights that you're able to cover. In my previous roles, I used to always go out in the market and buy a new set of tools. And I used to always realize at a later stage that possibly only 50% of the tool capacity I'm using. And as and when I'm adding more and more tools, they are not able to talk to each other. You need a technology and a platform, and you need a comprehensive and a coordinated visibility of your external threat landscape. One platform where all these details are present. And here is a case study, how we have helped out there, right? There was a large pharmaceutical organization with global presence. We help the CISO better understand their shadow IT and forgotten IT landscape, all by just onboarding their domain name. No intrusive scans done, no active scans done, utilizing various passive techniques. What was the outcome? They had better understanding of their infrastructure, so they were able to manage their infrastructure and cloud footprint easily. They were able to ensure their patch management and vulnerability management processes were up to date. And they were able to gain a visibility around shadow IT and forgotten IT. Imagine if you are sitting out there and you have to manage global offices or nodal offices around 90 countries. It can be a mayhem out there in trying to even understand which are those assets out there or which have not been decommissioned when on an Excel sheet it is showing that it is not existing out there. It is about helping manage your risk and inserting that in your risk management procedure. What are those lookalike websites out there? Are there any impersonation that you don't even know? We were able to identify for this organization. There was a website running, hosted in that time, and this was a few months ago before the geopolitical scenario started in Ukraine and Russia. It was hosted out of Ukraine, utilizing a look-alike logo, utilizing a similar looking branding messaging and similar looking products being sold at 1/10 the price. Can you imagine? That was the audacity of that website. And it's about the technology being able to present that to you. There is no human capital involved here. That helped the CISO to update their risk register, to take the necessary corrective actions because now they are empowered with visibility and understanding. There are no blind spots out there. Somebody goes and registers something out there in LATAM, you'll be able to identify all that. Telling you about those data breach monitoring. So many data breaches were identified, both in terms of identity, both in terms of some of your confidential data out there, so that you can take those proactive actions out there in trying to address those breaches, trying to change the passwords for those identities which have been leaked out there, enable your 2FA, enable your MFA, take various other corrective actions, make sure the ACL is down to the least privilege principle, and there are so many other things. But if you do not have the visibility, if you're sitting in a blind spot, you'll not be able to do it. That is what this technology was able to present to this large pharmaceutical organization with global presence out there, so that they were able to effectively justify the ROI and get better at their cybersecurity posture management. We similarly did for another organization where we helped them to manage their third-party risk. A very pertinent question in today's scenario, because there was a source code being leaked out there, ladies and gentlemen, just because somebody forgot to switch off the ACL around it. Security team was able to see that being identified by the technology and was able to restrict the visibility. Imagine what was to happen if that source code would have leaked out there. Somebody would have just inserted a malicious code. It would have gone live. You are done. Your brand is done. Your business model is done. Data is done. Who knows what would have happened if that sinister set of motives would have been executed out there. To another one, we identified a third-party gateway vendor which was being utilized out there. You had hacker conversation targeted those specific assets. This is not generic insight. This is specific to your assets, specific to your brands out there. You're able to do that. We are also able to help various SME and SMB clients. I'm cognizant of the time because I'm trying to rush. In trying to help them understand what are those negative social sentiments. If you have so many social sentiments, so many negative conversations being spoken about your brand, which indirectly or directly impacts customer loyalty, brand value, and creates a negative financial sentiment out there, then it becomes very difficult for your brand in certain cases to actually come out of it. You lose your customers, you lose your brand value, you have a negative financial impact around it. These are very important and pertinent scenarios which you need to be aware, and which we have proven as value to our clients and customers in various scenarios that we have run. I can go on and on. I know Vikas told me that, sort of stick to the timeline, and I've taken the speed train, which will be launching soon in India. I've taken that speed in trying to bring you and expose to you just the tip of the iceberg of what we call external threat landscape. It is very important, ladies and gentlemen, trying to tell you, trying to get you the visibility, give you the contextual understanding so that you can take risk-based decisions. You can remediate based on remediation plans, and you can execute some of the latest indicators being given to you rather than sitting, waiting for those reactive tools to tell you something, because by that time, it's almost all done and we are just there cleaning the spell. Over to you, Vikas. Ready for the Q&A.
Awesome session, Saurabh. Really appreciate it. I mean, looking at your passion and the energy you present with, I can tell you can present this for hours and hours and hours. So amazing session. Great. Really appreciate that. Yep. Okay, guys, 11:52 already. So let's take a couple of questions. If you want to ask live question, go ahead, raise your hand. I will unmute you and then you can ask your question. I'm also rushing because we only have 8 minutes. We got to do Wheel of Fortune and the Kahoot quiz as well.
So I would just quickly like to answer Ahmed's question that yes, the platform and the technology does provide you a remediation roadmap, which you can go ahead and remediate. So yes, it comes with the contextual insights.
Great. Let me see if anybody has raised hand for Q&A.
And Ruben, yes, we do provide dashboards for our leaderships, our management layer, our SOC analysts, so that they can see the complete life cycle around when the threat and risk was identified, what's the impact to their risk posture, and how it can be executed through the remediation, and also showing you a positive impact to your dashboard once those observations are remediated.
Awesome. So nobody has raised question. Nobody has raised hand. So one hand by Sushil. Let's take two questions only because we are already at 11:53. We have 250 plus participants today. So I'm going to unmute Sushil ji now. You can go ahead and ask your question. Next will be Kondra Veti. I'm sorry for bad pronunciation. So Sushil ji, go ahead, ask your question, please. You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah. So I am audible, correct?
Yeah. Yes, Sushil, go ahead, please.
So one thing, okay, so it is indeed a great session, okay, so great learnings also, okay, so my basic thing, okay, so how is it like different from, see, we have been like following some VAPT processes, VAPT audits and regular intervals. So based on the VAPT outcome, we normally do the remediation. So how like means your organization helps in overcoming that, okay, so it could be different or it could be the same in the same path itself.
No,
or if it is a part of the process.
Fantastic question. And I think we are the intelligence for your vulnerability management process. And let me quickly explain to you how it works. First of all, we tell you in real-time situation, which are those vulnerabilities in your externally exposed assets and which are the softwares that you are utilizing in your organization. You do not need to run a scan out there, and we do not scan. We have passive techniques around it. Two, we tell you the overall schematics around the vulnerability, right? We give you information on what are those threats, cyber criminals, campaigns. We even give you protective IOCs to safeguard yourselves against some of those exploits out there. And we tell you what is really the latest and the greatest and the real-time insight around, let's say, that particular vulnerability, which is identified from your external attack surface or software you are utilizing. So the biggest advantage is, one, it is real time, and it gives you a consolidated threat story, so that even if it is a CVSS score 3 vulnerability, if it is heavily exploited, and if there are campaigns around it, the risk score of that vulnerability might be risk score 9, which helps you identify that you are better off remediating that vulnerability now rather than waiting for 3 to 4 months. And I can go into various details. I would love to give you more insights around that, Sushil, but this was a very quick 30-second response to your question.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Great. So next, short question and short answer, please. So Kondra Veti, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, it is a great session, but I would like to that certificate related, how to download this certificate.
I will come to that. Okay, let's go to the next question. Harsh, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Saurabh. It was a
Hey.
great session. Just wanted to understand that, as we are integrating with multiple partners due to, business needs. So wanted to understand if we have a vendor security posture assessment as well in the deliverables.
No, fantastic question you asked. And yes, as part of our third party risk, you do not need an assessment. We will give you a clear understanding of what are those external threats and risks that your vendor is liable to. All you need to do is just onboard that third party, or we will identify. Our technology is quite smart, and you will be able to see those real-time indicators on your dashboard. You do not need to create any kind of assessment. This is real-time intelligence backed view, and I'd be happy to showcase in details if time permits or if there is an opportunity, Harsh.
Thanks, Saurabh. Would love to see this option. Thanks.
Sure.
Awesome, awesome. Next question is from Prakash Ranjan, our member from Bangalore chapter. I have not unmuted you, Prakash. Why? Because we have a session coming up in Bangalore. We are bringing Saurabh's energy to Bangalore, right? So, Ashfaq, you want to talk about the session in Bangalore? So, Prakash, you can ask your question there, okay? Ashfaq, you go ahead, please, and talk about what we are doing in Bangalore.
For sure, Vikas. So, outside, let me thank you all team for your time and participation, and for EliteCISOs for arranging such a wonderful session. I'm sure team, as CISOs and senior cybersecurity professionals, you might have a lot of questions how to get a complete visibility of your external threat landscape management, and do you really have the visibility of your external facing IT assets? Is there somebody who's targeting you? Why he's targeting? How he's targeting? How can I evade that in a most predictive manner? So in that regard, what we have done is with the help of EliteCISOs, we are trying to arrange a session in the month of June. So people who are in Bangalore are most welcome. I personally welcome you all to take part, where we can have a detailed discussion about our offering and how we can actually help you answering some of these questions which we discussed during Saurabh's presentation today, and probably Vikas and team, EliteCISOs team will get in touch with you. Look forward to meeting you all in person. In case of any further clarifications, you may reach out to us. Thank you so much, Vikas.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Last couple of bits, guys. So if you want to download your participation certificate that looks like it, what you got to do is go to EliteCISO's website, click on events, click on upcoming events, and scroll. No, you don't have to scroll. Just click over here, CP certificate. And the password to download the certificate is Bangalore, right? All you got to do is put your email address where you want your certificate, put your full name, and the secret is Bangalore, Bangalore, right? Bangalore is the secret to download the today's session certificate, participation certificate. And you know why Bangalore? Because in Bangalore on 17th, we are doing this physical session with Cyfirma, and Saurabh will be there, and then you can catch him up and get, your question answered. So what you got to do is, if you are based out of Bangalore, if you are CIO, CISO, go ahead and register for this session. The registrations are open now, so simply click on register now. This will take you to a page, and then you can register for the physical in-person session in Bangalore on 17th June. It's a evening event, 6:30 p.m. onward. So looking forward to see you guys out there as well. Okay, with this, now you can download the certificate. The last bit that everybody is kind of waiting for before Wheel of Fortune is the Kahoot quiz. So guys, go ahead. I'm starting this Kahoot quiz now. You know how to play Kahoot. Go to the kahoot.it website and then enter the game pin. Okay, the game pin is going to load right now on your screen. So go to your browsers or mobile phone, whatever you are using. Go to kahoot.it and enter the game pin as 7664068. Seven 66406 is the Kahoot pin. We see that people are joining in now. There are 5 questions only. Okay, only 5 questions, and giveaway are 5,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees, and 2,000 rupees Amazon vouchers. I see a lot of people are joining in. We will wait till about 150 people, and then we'll kick start. Quick, guys, quick. Okay, 10 more seconds because we are already about 12 o'clock. Okay, 120, 9:30. I am going to start the quiz now. Perfect. Okay, guys, be ready, be quick. And here comes the first question on your screen. The first question is, cybersecurity strategies have evolved over the years. What can cyber defenders do to stay ahead of cyber criminals? Obviously, buy more security tools, right? That's what you want, EDR, XDR, MDR, whatever we get. Keep upgrading existing set, use cyber intelligence, or stop all digitization project, right? Let's see. Okay, done. So 88 people have got it right. Let's see how the leaderboard looks like. The leaderboard, Vivek Daharia is at the top. Awesome, Vivek ji. Congratulations, Vikram, Prakash Ranjan. Great. Let's go to the next question. The second one coming on your screen. Isn't, sorry, so VAPT is mandated by various industries, right? Is it effective and sufficient for enterprise cyber defense or not? Or you can do something else as well? Yes, annual VAPT is sufficient, or you got to do VAPT every month, or VAPT lacks vulnerability monitoring and intelligence. It does not provide the contextual insight. So 65 people have got it right. Let's see, does this change the leaderboard or not? It does change. Prakash is at the top, Vikram second, Aishwarya on the third position. Let's see the third question now. It's a multi-select one. What type of insight Cyfirma uncovers for you? Strategic intelligence, weather forecast. Obviously, Saurabh was talking about rain in Singapore. Management intelligence or operation intelligence. What does Cyfirma provides you? 90, 200, 112 answers. Okay. Great, great, great. So a lot of people have selected, 16 people have selected for the weather forecast as well. So sorry, guys, it does not provide weather forecast as yet. All the other three things it does provide. Let's see what the next one is. Okay, so leaderboard change now. Okay, Prakash is still on the top. Let's see the fourth question now. For Cyfirma's predictive intelligence capabilities, how many pillars of threat views are available? 10 pillars, 5 pillars, 25 pillars, 6 pillars. I'm sure Saurabh has covered this in the session. 139, 140 answers already. And let's see. Okay, so people, it's a mixed opinion, right? So 10 pillars is the right answer. Only 28 people have got it right. Let's see. Does it change? Yes, yes. So Prakash is still on the top. That's great. That's great. Last question coming up on your screen, guys. Who are the users of Cyfirma's Decipher platform dashboards? Right? Only technology leader, only business leaders, or cybersecurity practitioners, or all of above? My gut says when it says all of above, tick on that. I'm not leaking the answers, but yeah, let's see. Okay. So, okay, great. 128 people have got it right. Same strategy. Let's see who the winner is going to be. So the third one is with 504 points is Mr. Sandeep Karan. Second is Gurpreet. And the first one is Prakash Ranjan. Is it? Yeah, Prakash Ranjan from Bangalore chapter. So congratulations, Prakash. I'll ping you offline over WhatsApp and share your Amazon voucher. So congratulations with that. Now let me go to the Wheel of Fortune. So as part of Wheel of Fortune, we have 3 soundbars as giveaway. You see that all the people who registered are part of this Wheel of Fortune. I will spin it once. If your name comes, go to the chat and say, yes, you are there in this session. Spinning it for the first one now. The first one goes to Gaurav Medha, GIC of India, member of Mumbai chapter. Gaurav, if you are there, go to the chat and say, yes, I'm rushing, guys. So with this, I'm going to remove all these entries, and then I'm going to put only the folks who support Elite CISOs on LinkedIn by liking and commenting on the post, right, that we do. So this one is for Cyfirma post that we did. About 108 people liked it. So they are going to be 2 spin only for folks who support Elite CISO. So second one I'm spinning now, and the second one goes to, let's see. Mr. Balakrishnan from Chennai chapter. Mr. Balakrishnan, if you are there in this session, go to the chat and say yes. I'm spinning it for the last one, which is the third one now. And the third one goes to Sridhar from Hyderabad chapter. So Sridhar, if you are there, go to the chat and say yes. With this, we will monitor the chat and see who said yes. I think that's about it. With this, thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, Ashfaq. Great session it has been. I'm looking forward for the Bangalore chapter. And guys, as you know, every week we conduct these weekly webinars. So next week we have a session with Palo Alto and we will talk about zero trust and zero exceptions. If you want to register for it, go ahead and register now. With this, thanks everyone for joining in. See you guys next week. Bye, Saurabh. Bye, Ashfaq. Great session.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.